Welcome to Flash Fiction from Giant's Reach by Steve Cook. It's half term here in the UK, or at least for some bits of the UK, and because I'm a full-time teacher at the moment, it means it's the only real time I've had recently to sit down and do some world building to sort of add to the world of Giant's Reach. And it means that I've also sat down and come up with some headlines for Flash Fiction. So this one started as Boy Digs to China, Finds Buried Gold, which is just one of those things you do as a child, you know, sort of dig the deepest hole you can and you get about 2 feet in and give up because it's time for dinner. But I wanted to think about what would happen if a child in the world of Giant's Reach had dug a hole and found something truly spectacular at the bottom. So this is that story. Buried Gold. Kai's shovel bit into the ground, loosening a clod of earth. He worked the blade under, the wooden handle rubbing against the sore spots on his hands, then slung the dirt up and out of the hole. A spray of water went with it. He breathed in deeply, the damp loam filling his nostrils. There was that scent, the one that made his nose tingle and sent a shiver down his spine. He leaned close to the earthen wall and sucked in as much air as he could, filling his lungs with the sweet smell of whatever was down here. "Boy, you best not be in that hole again," his father's shout rang out from inside the house. "Time we left for service." The young man sighed and hauled himself over the edge, leaving his shovel in the bottom. It was deep now, deep enough that the puddle in the bottom reflected the blue sky above. He nodded in satisfaction. Then he looked at his hands and feet. Black dirt lined every nail, a heavy coat of grime covering all his exposed skin, and a good proportion of his shorts, the only clothing he wore. "Boy!" Guiltily, Kai looked over at his father, framed in the back doorway. He was already dressed in his church best, white shirt and waistcoat. In his hands he held Kai's own shirt and trousers. "Chimera, save me," his father murmured. "Boy, you get yourself cleaned up in the next 10 minutes, or I will tan your hide a different colour, and if I find even a speck of that dirt on these clothes, it'll be the worse for you." "Sorry, Dad," Kai muttered, keeping his eyes low as he walked into the house. He gave his father as wide a berth as he could. "If you were sorry," the man growled, "you wouldn't have done it." He followed Kai towards the sink, where lukewarm washing water still filled the bowl. A bar of abrasive soap floated in the water. "Sorry's just a word we say to make ourselves feel better. As if the sense I beat into you wasn't enough, you go digging holes in our yard. You know I've had the neighbours complaining again. Mrs. Witchell, next door, she nearly fell in the damn thing. Why—" He paused, and Kai froze, soap in hand. He stiffened as his father's hand descended onto his shoulder, but the fingers merely curled tightly enough to hold him in place. He felt more than saw his father crouch down to look at something on his back. "Boy, why are you digging?" "Smells good," Kai blurted out. "In the hole, I mean, Dad. It smells good down there." Those blunt fingers scraped at something on his back, and Kai took a sharp breath. There was that scent again, a sudden bloom of it in the air. It was gone almost as soon as he sensed it. This looks like dust," his father muttered. "Seen it in the church. Seen the father with it. This from out of your hole?" Kai nodded, fear clamping down on him. "There's more of this down there?" Another nod, and his father's fingers dug in again, pulling him away from the bowl and back towards the door. "Show me." They went back outside, and Kai, hesitantly at first, began to sort through the clods of earth from today's excavation. He lifted each one, nose twitching, discarding each until he found one that carried the telltale scent. He broke it apart, and there it was, the greasy yellowish substance that seemed to run all through the ground around here. Despite the slightly sick feeling that had taken up home in his stomach, his brain fizzed a little as the smell surrounded him. He didn't resist when his father took the clod of earth from him. "Is it deep down?" Kai shook his head. "Not that deep." He dared to look at his father and his eyes widened. "Your shirt! Your church shirt's dirty, Dad." "Never mind about that," his father said. "Get back in that hole and dig." "But what about church?" "I said dig." His father began to roll up his sleeves. "I'm going to find another shovel. I know we've got one somewhere." Kai looked from the hole to his father in confusion, then slowly lowered himself in. When he came back a moment later, shovel in hand, his father didn't spare him even a glance, but simply began to widen the top edge of the hole. It was a long time in coming, but eventually a warm glow began to spread through Kai, as, for the first time in as long as he could remember, he and his father did something together. You've been listening to flash fiction written for my Patreon, Giant's Reach. If you'd like to become a supporter, go to patreon.com/Giant's Reach, where you can find more fiction just like this,